Hey guys. Alright, so for the next part of our internal analysis content, we're going to look at the concept or the model known as the value chain and the subsequent analysis that we can take out from that. Some of you may have dealt with the value chain model before. For those of you who haven't, I can tell you it was devised by this great man up the top here. His name is Michael Porter. As I say, throughout the semester we will be looking at a number of Porter's concepts. He is a very prominent theorist within strategic management. Little known fact though that he is a massive St Kilda fan, and he does love Lenny Hayes, as you can see there. That image definitely not photoshopped on at all. For you guys though, the value chain analysis is really important because it allows you, when you do undertake this analysis, to understand which parts of your operations within the company create value and those that do not. As you can imagine, therefore, it is quite important because the firm can earn above average returns only when the value created within these different parts of your operations is greater than the cost incurred. So you need to work out what parts of your value chain are doing well and which are not. It therefore helps identify a firm's cost position and is basically made up of two main parts. The first of which is known as the primary activities, and the second of which is the support activities. And we're going to look at each of these in turn over the next couple of slides. First of all, those primary activities are those activities involved with a product's physical creation, its sale and distribution to buyers, and its after-sales service. So basically the key parts that go into making whatever it is your company makes and then selling that on to the people who will buy it and making sure that they are happy with it. The support activities are necessary for those primary activities to take place. So without the support activities, we couldn't conduct those primary activities. If you're looking for a diagrammatic representation of what we're talking about here, you can see it on this slide now. So as you can see, we've got our primary activities that are highlighted in the pink colour up the top, and when combined, they will hopefully, if we do them well, lead to customer value. You can see down the bottom and shaded in green, we have our support activities. And we're going to go through each of those one by one. But the important thing to take out of this slide is to notice that each of these different parts are interconnected rather. So they all have an influence on one another. Each of those three support activities will influence all of the different types of primary activities, and the primary activities do flow into one another, and as I say, hopefully culminating in that customer value at the end. Alright, let's start by going through our primary activities first. And the first, as you can see at the top of the page, is supply chain management. So these are all the activities necessary for the company to receive the raw materials, so to get them inside in the first place, and then convert them into the final product. So all the sourcing of your raw materials, the procurement, the purchase and conversion, as well as logistics, is all part of supply chain management. Operations are those activities necessary to change those raw materials that you brought in as part of your supply chain management into the finished products themselves. So things like developing the work schedules of the employees who obviously operate the machinery and tools that manufacture the products, designing production processes or physical layout of facilities, determining production capacity needs, and so on. These are all parts of what you do as a firm to actually transform those raw inputs into the finished product. Once that's completed, we can then look at the distribution, which are those activities related to getting the final product to the customer. So once you've made it, actually handling the customer orders, choosing the optimal delivery channel, and working with finance to arrange for customer payments, making sure that whoever it is who is purchasing your final produced good can actually afford to do so. We then can look at marketing and sales, which are those activities taken for the purpose of segmenting target customers on the basis of things like unique needs, satisfying customer needs, retaining customers, and locating additional customers. So whenever we talk about marketing and sales, things like advertising, whenever you turn on the TV, there's an advertisement. You walk outside in the street and there will be advertising. Developing and managing your brand, making sure that those resources, the brand reputation and so on that we talked about earlier, the intangible resources are managed and developed correctly. Determining the pricing strategies so that you can get the maximum value and profit out of those products, as well as the training and supporting of sales staff who, as we'll talk about later in the semester, play a key role in the success of the firm. Finally, we can have a look at the service element or the service activities, which are taken to increase a product's value for the customers. As you can imagine, they are involved after the actual sale of the product. And so things like customer satisfaction surveys, technical support, complying with the warranty, these are all things to help enhance the value of our products to the customer after they've purchased it. And it does form a crucial part of a firm's value chain. All right, we can then look at the support activities. And there are three in particular that we're going to focus on for this unit. The first of which is the managing of the information systems. Now, hopefully, your information systems and the management that goes on around them is a little bit more advanced than our friends at the top, our canine friend with his headset, or our feline friend who is from clearly tech support. Hopefully your tech support is a bit better than that one there. But we're looking really here at those activities taken to obtain and manage information and the knowledge throughout the firm. So things like identifying sophisticated technologies, computer systems in particular, that help manage all the information within our organisation, collecting and distributing all the relevant knowledge, particularly from the higher levels down to the lower levels and vice versa, and also linking relevant information to organisational functions, so making sure that marketing is in communication with manufacturing and so on, so that there is consistency between the activities there too. Human resource management is super important. Certainly a number of you are probably doing human resource management as a major. And so you will know all about those activities associated with managing the firm's human capital. And you hear companies all the time, our people are our greatest resource. And that may be true. Certainly if that is the case, then managing those very important resources and the human capital becomes vital. So selecting, training, retaining and compensating your human resources to create that capability, and hopefully for your company's sake a core competency, is super important. The final support activity we're going to look at is finance, and again hopefully it's a little bit more advanced than our friend down the bottom here who does love his tennis balls. This is those activities associated with effectively acquiring and managing the financial resources of the firm. So things like securing adequate financial capital, investing in organisational functions to support the firm's efforts to produce and distribute products in short and long term. These sorts of things to make sure that basically all the financial side of the firm is running smoothly. As you can imagine, without that, we wouldn't be able to engage in marketing. We wouldn't have the after-sales service and so on if you don't have the money to do so. The last thing we're going to talk about in relation to the value chain is this concept of benchmarking. And we're going to go over this later in the semester in more detail. But the important thing to understand about it now is that it does involve improving a firm's internal activities based on learning other companies' best practices. And these best practices do tend to be linked to the value chain activities. So it involves assessing whether the cost competitiveness and effectiveness of a firm's value chain activities are in line with its competitors' activities. Do we do things better? Do we do things worse than our competitors in each of these respective value chain activities? And if we do them worse, how can we use the practices that our best practices of our competitors use to improve ourselves? How do we achieve or how do we gain this information necessary for benchmarking? There are a few different ways. Obviously things like reports. Independent groups will often commission and undertake reports into the state of the industry and the different competitors within it. There will be various analysts, and also customer information and feedback becomes really important as well. You might even be able to get a sneak into one of your rival competitors. Certainly, you hear stories all the time of supermarket chains, often within a single shopping centre. You hear stories of an employee from one of the supermarket chains literally being sent to a rival chain to check what are the pricing of the various products in there, and then come back reporting on that and seeing how perhaps they can then alter their own approach to do better. There's also data that is often available from consulting firms. Again, a lot of firms these days will actually pay a consulting firm to come in and do research on their rivals, and in particular, what are the things that those rivals do well that we could then adopt and manage within our own organisation. So the things that are commonly benchmarked from firm to firm include things like the purchase of materials, the payment of suppliers, management of inventories, the processing of payrolls, training of employees. These are all the sorts of things that companies want to know what is the best way of doing this? And as I say, as a result of that, they often compare themselves against the competitors and see how the best practices are carried out within the industry so that they can hopefully then relate them back and improve the way that their value chain operates.